Alright, welcome everyone to Nicole's Aqua canvas. I'm excited to have you join in painting with me today. So I'm just starting off with a sketch here. I like to use a light colored pencil to sketch out my base drawing. So I chose yellow because it's my favorite color, but this way it's really nice that the pencil or whatever markings you're using, it doesn't show up through the paint. So just making a neat mushroom landscape here. Feel free to pause and follow along. And then I'd laid down some water before just to use that wet on wet technique. And then I laid down some of the greenish yellow. And this is in the Mungyo 48 color pack. After that, while it's still wet, I laid down some olive green over top, kind of concentrating on the top of that grassy hill there and watching it blend down into the greenish yellow. And honestly, just layering it and watching it blend wherever you'd like. This is a little bit of deep phthalo green, so just adding a little bit more of a greeny color in there. They've been kind of yellowy green before, so just getting some depth into that grassy hill there. Up next, just layering on some water onto the top cap of my first mushroom. This just really helps it blend when you add multiple colors. And I grabbed permanent red for this one to start, and I got quite a bit of pigment on my brush because I wanted it to show up really nice and deep on the canvas there. So for now, I'm just kind of focusing on the outer edges, the outer corners of that cap that's visible there, just to really focus the colors there, and then I'll blend it in afterwards, add some shadows, add some highlights. So for this one, I went ahead and grabbed Van Dyke Brown, mixed with a little bit of black just to give some neat contrast and a little bit of shadow and show, you know, the mushroom's not perfect. It's been weathered outside. And I'm just adding this only around the edges. And I went in here just with a little bit of burnt umber on my brush here. Very, very light pigment, lots of water to really help everything blend. And here I went in with just water on my brush, and I'm kind of pulling in some of the paint pigment that's already there. I did realize though that I kind of covered up some of the white and the highlighted parts that I wanted to keep. So a great tip is just going in with a paper towel, and it helps to lift up some of that paint that's still slightly damp on the paper. And just a final time going through and blending in some of those harsher lines. Now moving on to the second mushroom cap, same technique, just laying down some water, really following those lines that you've sketched before, so then it's really nice and crisp. And same technique, going in with permanent red to start. Just watching it blend, kind of seeing where the paint takes it honestly, and then going from there when you lay down your next colors. Something I like to do as well is play around with how much pigment I'm using, so you can get quite a few different shades with just one color. So that's what I'm doing here. I've only gone in with that permanent red up until now, just adding a little bit of burnt umber, but it looks like more than 2 different shades of paint, which is awesome. It's fun to play around with. Okay, moving on to kind of the background of that grassy hill. Now, the reason I didn't do it right at the start is because I like to have some crisp lines in my watercolor next to really blended parts. And so to do that, I wanted to let it fully dry on that left side of the canvas there. And then once it was ready, it wouldn't blend into that part that I'm working on now. And just starting off with that greenish yellow, and now I can see that I'm blending in some sap green. Now I'm adding a bush up top, and I wanted it to really contrast against that kind of greenish yellow grassy hill that I did before. So going in to start with sap green. And again, just playing around with the amount of pigment that's on my brush to create deeper colors. And using whatever's left, I'm just really lightly flicking across that already dried grassy hill part just to create some texture, some little grass sprigs, you could call them. And same technique, now that that red part of the mushroom cap is fully dry, because I don't want the red blending into that under part of the mushroom, I'm now going in, started off with the wet on wet technique, and now I'm layering over top Naples yellow. Just a really light layer, thin layer. And to add a little bit of depth, I'm going in now with raw umber, just along some of the outer edges, kind of to create a shadow effect underneath where that red mushroom would be hanging over top of. All right, time for some finer details here. So I'm going in with permanent violet and a little bit of a smaller brush and just adding some little lavender, little blossoms in the distance, just for a little bit of extra detail. I added some of these to the bush as well, just to tie everything all in together. All right, now that the under part of the mushroom is dry, I can then go ahead and layer in some water to start, and then the yellow ochre. And this is for that stem of the mushroom. And now layering in some Van Dyke brown just to get a really nice contrast and show where that stem of the mushroom meets the underside part. And I'm just kind of focusing on bringing that Van Dyke brown on the edges of that stem there. And then it gets lighter as it goes into the center. And it didn't quite seem complete, so I wanted to add in a really light wash for the sky, and this color is Permanent Light Blue. I just thought it really tied it in all together. It's pretty loose, it's pretty not right to the edges, I guess you could say, but it really tied it in all together. And just for some finer details, I got my brush just a little bit wet, kind of patted it off on a paper towel, and I'm going in with Van Dyke Brown just to give a little bit of detail and add some depth, and it shows kind of that mushroom is 3D. So going around the stem, that under part of the mushroom, and then just adding a couple fine lines on the stem as well. And now here I'm going in, I have some tube watercolor paints as well, and so these are already pretty pigmented, and I just went in with plain old white and added some more mushroom detail. Now you could do smaller dots like I've done here, but I was also thinking about doing some larger spots on the mushroom just for some variety, so you could always give that a try and see how it looks. And just adding some final details here, going in with olive brown and green brown mixed together to just fully blend in those mushroom stems into our grassy hill that we did before. And that is the finished product. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to see what you create, so make sure you tag me in your creations on Instagram and TikTok at Nicole's Aqua Canvas. I'll see you next time.